Animal Farm, George Orwell. George Orwell's Animal Farm, first published in 1945, is one of the most famous political allegories ever written, and also one of the most frequently banned books. Beneath its simple story of farm animals rebelling against their human master lies a biting critique of totalitarianism, propaganda, and the corruption of revolutionary ideals. Because of this, governments across the world have tried to silence it. The novel begins with the animals overthrowing their farmer, hoping to create a society of equality and freedom. But as the pigs gradually assume power, the revolution twists into dictatorship. By the end, the farm is no better than before, with slogans like, "All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others," capturing the hypocrisy of authoritarian rule. Upon release, the book was immediately controversial. In the Soviet Union, Animal Farm was banned for its obvious parallels to Joseph Stalin's regime, which Orwell lampooned through The Pig Napoleon. The Soviet press denounced it as anti-Soviet propaganda. Copies were not published openly in Russia until decades later, long after Stalin's death. In other countries, bans arose for different reasons. In the 1950s, the novel was challenged in the United States during the height of McCarthyism, as some critics feared its criticism of communism might also reflect badly on capitalism and government authority in general. In places like Kenya during the colonial period, British authorities restricted it out of fear it would inspire rebellion. More recently, countries such as the United Arab Emirates and North Korea have banned it for its themes of political dissent and its portrayal of rebellion against authority. Despite suppression, Animal Farm spread widely through underground publications and translations, becoming a staple of political literature worldwide. Today, it is studied in classrooms as both a literary classic and a warning about how revolutions can be betrayed by power-hungry elites. Its history of banning highlights how dangerous satire can be to those who fear truth disguised in fiction. The Grapes of Wrath, John Steinbeck. John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath, published in 1939, is one of the defining novels of American literature, and also one of the most frequently banned and challenged. Its unflinching depiction of poverty, injustice, and the struggles of migrant workers during the Great Depression outraged many upon release, particularly those who felt it painted too bleak a portrait of the United States. The novel follows the Joad family, tenant farmers forced off their Oklahoma land by drought and economic collapse. They join thousands of others migrating west along Route 66, hoping for work in California's orchards and farms. Instead, they find hunger, exploitation, and systemic oppression. Steinbeck's vivid prose highlighted the plight of the working poor, exposing the deep inequalities of Depression-era America. Almost immediately, the novel faced bans and burnings. In Kern County, California, where much of the story is set, officials branded it communist propaganda and ordered it removed from libraries. Growers and landowners, furious at Steinbeck's portrayal of their treatment of migrant workers, publicly denounced the book. Across the country, schools and libraries censored it for profanity, vulgar content, and political themes that challenged powerful interests. In the 1950s and 60s, it continued to be banned for its supposed immorality and radical politics. Yet for all the attempts to suppress it, The Grapes of Wrath struck a chord with readers worldwide. It won the Pulitzer Prize in 1940, and Steinbeck later received the Nobel Prize in Literature, in part because of its impact. For working people and reformers, it became a symbol of resilience and a call for justice. Today, it is hailed as a classic of social protest literature, but its banning history underscores a key irony. A novel written to give voice to the voiceless was itself silenced by those who feared its message. The Grapes of Wrath shows how literature that exposes uncomfortable truths often faces the harshest attempts at suppression. Brave New World, Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, published in 1932, remains one of the most influential and most banned dystopian novels of the 20th century. Its vision of a technologically advanced but soulless society shocked readers and challenged ideas of morality, freedom, and control. For many authorities, the book's provocative ideas and explicit content made it dangerous. The novel imagines a future where human beings are bred in hatcheries, conditioned from birth to fit into rigid social castes, and pacified through pleasure, consumerism, and a drug called soma. Concepts like family, individuality, and love are abolished in favor of stability and conformity. Huxley's world of engineered happiness felt both alluring and horrifying, a warning that comfort and control could destroy human freedom. Almost immediately, Brave New World faced bans and challenges. In the United States, it was removed from classrooms for its depictions of promiscuity, drug use, and criticism of religion. Parents and educators in the 1940s and 50s claimed it was corrupting and immoral. In some cases, it was attacked for political reasons, accused of promoting communism, socialism, or, paradoxically, elitism. Other nations restricted it even more severely. Ireland banned it for immorality, and Australia censored it for years. In authoritarian states, its critique of control and conformity was seen as subversive. Even as late as the 2000s, schools across the United States and Canada reported challenges to its inclusion in curriculums, citing offensive language and sexual themes. Yet the novel endured because of its chilling accuracy. Huxley's warnings about consumerism, media manipulation, and the use of technology to dull dissent resonate strongly in modern society. Critics now see it as a companion to George Orwell's 1984, with Orwell envisioning control through fear and Huxley imagining control through pleasure. The history of Brave New World's censorship shows how deeply it unsettled readers across generations. By holding a mirror to society's pursuit of comfort at the cost of freedom, Huxley's book became not only a classic, but also one of the most enduringly banned and challenged works in modern history. To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee. Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, first published in 1960, is one of the most beloved novels in American literature, yet it has also been one of the most banned and challenged. Its exploration of racial injustice, morality, and childhood innocence made it both a classic and a lightning rod for controversy. The novel is set in Depression-era Alabama and told through the eyes of young Scout Finch. Her father, Atticus Finch, defends Tom Robinson, a black man falsely accused of raping a white woman. Through this trial and Scout's childhood experiences, the book confronts racism, class prejudice, and the struggle for justice. For many, it became an enduring story of empathy and courage. But the very themes that made it powerful also made it a frequent target for censorship. Since its release, the novel has been challenged in schools and libraries across the United States. Critics often point to its use of racial slurs, its frank depiction of prejudice, and its sometimes uncomfortable handling of race relations. In the 1970s and 80s, parents argued that the language was offensive and inappropriate for students. More recently, some have claimed that the book centers white perspectives, while oversimplifying the realities of systemic racism. At the same time, its candid discussions of sexual assault and injustice added further controversy. In some communities, parents sought to remove it for being immoral or too adult for school curriculums. Despite these challenges, defenders have consistently argued for its literary and moral value, highlighting how it encourages students to think critically about empathy, fairness, and human dignity. Today, To Kill a Mockingbird remains a staple of school reading lists while continuing to spark debate. Its banning history underscores the tensions in American society, between confronting painful truths and seeking to shield young readers from them. That it is both celebrated and censored shows the enduring power of literature to challenge, unsettle, and inspire. Uncle Tom's Cabin, Harriet Beecher Stowe. When Harriet Beecher Stowe published Uncle Tom's Cabin in 1852, it quickly became one of the most influential novels in American history, and one of the most banned. Written as a response to the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, the book exposed the cruelty of slavery in vivid human terms, turning abstract debates into emotional reality for readers. The novel tells the story of Uncle Tom, an enslaved man whose faith and dignity endure despite being sold and brutalized. Through his suffering and the lives of other enslaved characters, Stowe painted a searing picture of the violence, family separations, and moral corruption inherent in slavery. For abolitionists, the novel was a revelation, stirring outrage against the institution. For those who defended slavery, it was an unforgivable attack. The South responded with fury. In states like Georgia, Virginia, and North Carolina, the novel was banned outright. Southern critics denounced it as slander, accusing Stowe of exaggerating or fabricating the horrors of slavery. Pro-slavery writers even produced counter-novels, anti-Tom literature, that depicted slavery as benevolent and tried to discredit Stowe's work. Owning or distributing the book in some parts of the South could lead to fines or imprisonment. Yet Uncle Tom's Cabin spread like wildfire in the North and abroad. It sold more than 300,000 copies in its first year and was translated into dozens of languages. Abraham Lincoln is famously said to have called Stowe the little lady who made this big war when he met her, acknowledging its role in shaping anti-slavery sentiment before the Civil War. Its banning history underscores the power of literature to threaten entrenched systems. By humanizing the enslaved and portraying slavery's brutality in plain terms, Stowe's novel became dangerous to those who profited from the institution. Today, Uncle Tom's Cabin is recognized as a cornerstone of abolitionist literature, but its suppression in the South shows how words can strike such fear that they must be silenced. Tropic of Cancer, Henry Miller. Henry Miller's Tropic of Cancer, first published in 1934 in Paris, remains one of the most controversial novels of the 20th century. For decades, it was celebrated by artists and intellectuals while simultaneously banned as obscene in the United States and the United Kingdom. Its eventual legalization became a landmark moment in the fight for literary freedom. The novel is semi-autobiographical, set in Paris, where Miller lived as a struggling writer. Written in a raw, stream-of-consciousness style, it describes his bohemian life of poverty, relationships, and sexual encounters with a frankness that was shocking at the time. Miller's prose combined vulgarity, philosophy, and lyricism, painting a portrait of artistic struggle and human desire without filters. Authorities reacted with outrage. The U.S. Customs Service labeled it obscene and banned its import. For decades, copies were smuggled into America by travelers, often seized at the border. In Britain, the book was also prohibited, deemed corrupting and immoral. For censors, its graphic sexual content outweighed any literary merit. Yet Tropic of Cancer gained a cult following. Writers like George Orwell, T.S. Eliot, and Lawrence Durrell praised Miller's unflinching honesty and stylistic daring. In France, it circulated freely, but in English-speaking countries, it became a forbidden text, whispered about among artists and intellectuals. The turning point came in 1961, when Grove Press published Tropic of Cancer openly in the United States. This triggered dozens of obscenity trials across the country. Courts were divided. Some ruled it pornographic, while others defended its artistic value. Finally, in 1964, the U.S. Supreme Court effectively legalized the book, ruling that it was literature, not obscenity. The battle over Tropic of Cancer reshaped American obscenity law and opened the door for other controversial works. Today, it is recognized as a modernist classic, valued as much for its role in expanding free expression as for its literary merit. Its banning history shows how art that dares to be explicit can terrify censors, but also push society toward greater openness. Dr. Zhivago, Boris Pasternak. Boris Pasternak's Dr. Zhivago, first published in 1957, is one of the most famous examples of a book banned not for obscenity or immorality, but for politics. Its sweeping love story, set during the Russian Revolution and Civil War, was deemed dangerous by Soviet authorities, who feared it painted communism in a negative light. The novel follows Yuri Zhivago, a physician and poet, as he navigates the chaos of the Russian Revolution, the collapse of the old order, and the brutality of the new Soviet regime. Through his love for Lara, Zhivago becomes a witness to a nation in turmoil. Pasternak's writing emphasizes individuality, spirituality, and the personal cost of ideology, themes that clash directly with Soviet propaganda, which demanded glorification of collectivism and party loyalty. When Pasternak submitted the manuscript in the Soviet Union, it was rejected by state publishers as politically subversive. However, an Italian publisher, Gian Giacomo Feltrinelli, smuggled the manuscript out and released it abroad in 1957. The novel became an international sensation, hailed for its lyrical prose and poignant portrayal of love amid revolution. In 1958, Pasternak was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature, an honor that enraged the Soviet authorities. The Soviet regime forced Pasternak to decline the prize under threat of expulsion and persecution. At home, he was denounced in the press as a traitor, and Dr. Zhivago was banned outright. Owning or distributing the book in the USSR could lead to punishment. Ironically, the CIA secretly printed and distributed copies of the novel in Russian as part of Cold War propaganda, ensuring it reached Soviet readers despite the ban. Dr. Zhivago's censorship history illustrates how a love story became a battlefield in the global struggle between East and West. For the Soviet state, it was dangerous because it depicted individuals who longed for personal freedom and dignity. For readers, it became proof that literature could transcend politics and speak to the universal human condition, even in the face of repression. One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Alexander Solzhenitsyn's One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, first published in 1962, is a landmark novel that revealed the harsh reality of the Soviet Gulag system. Its path to censorship is unusual. Initially approved for publication under Nikita Khrushchev's policy of limited openness, it was later banned as the Soviet state retreated back into repression. The novel tells the story of Ivan Denisovich Shukov, a prisoner in a Soviet labor camp, as he endures a single day of grueling work, hunger, and strict control. Solzhenitsyn does not dramatize his suffering with grand escapes or revolutions. Instead, he depicts the monotonous survival of a man trying to stay alive with dignity in inhumane conditions. This quiet realism exposed the cruelty of Stalinist camps with unprecedented honesty. At first, its publication was celebrated as a moment of truth-telling during Khrushchev's thaw. Soviet readers, many of whom had lived through the terror of the gulags, were stunned to see their experiences reflected in print. The novel spread widely and quickly, even abroad, where it was hailed as proof of Soviet brutality. But the thaw did not last. After Khrushchev's removal from power in 1964, censorship tightened. By 1969, Solzhenitsyn's works were banned in the Soviet Union, and he was expelled from the Writers' Union. His manuscript copies circulated only through samizdat, underground self-publishing, making One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich both famous and forbidden at the same time. Eventually, Solzhenitsyn was exiled in 1974 for his unflinching criticism of Soviet oppression. The banning of this novel underscores how dangerous truth can be to authoritarian regimes. Unlike many other banned books, it was not suppressed for obscenity or blasphemy, but for its insistence on depicting real human suffering under state control. Today, One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich is considered one of the most important works of the 20th century, a reminder of how literature can give voice to the silenced and challenge the power of censorship. Thank you for watching. If you learned anything, throw me a like and comment below on what you would like to see in the future. History never runs out of surprises, and neither do we. So subscribe and join me for the next dive into the archives.